Afternoon, everybody. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. Today was the day Mike Tomlin could have, arguably should have, named Justin Fields his QB1. Instead, when the inevitable question came up at his press conference on the South Side, this was the complete response.
Because there's no need. I explained to you the variables of the week. It has not changed. He's going to walk in this building with that mindset tomorrow. And so there's no need to. Sometimes in this business, man, there's a myriad of complex decisions that need to be made. I've learned to make them when it's appropriate and it's not necessary as we sit here right now. When Russ gets to an appropriate point of health and we have a decision to make, I'll make it and I'll announce it and I'll be really transparent about it. But until then, I don't care how many ways you guys ask me. I got no intentions of making a decision that's unnecessary at this juncture.
Now, listen, say what you want about how he handles the media. I've been covering the man for 20 years, and I've kind of gotten used to it and don't really worry about the way he'll say stuff like, I'm not going to give you what you want and whatever. That stuff doesn't faze anybody. Trust me on that one. But when it comes to the football team, that's what matters. And I'm seeing a quarterback who's playing really, really well and a team that's got a 3-0 record. And while I get that what's really going on here is that Tomlin verbally backed himself into a corner last week when he said there's not going to be anything to give anybody, meaning media, regarding the quarterback situation until Russell Wilson's back to full health, at which point they will take everything into consideration. That's exactly how he described it. Okay, it's his team. He can run it the way he runs it. And again, they're 3-0, so he's getting the results. But there's something about this that feels a little bit uncomfortable. When your team is telling you, not just through words, but through their actions on the field, that this is their guy, that he is their offense, you can't stretch this out forever. I don't know how long Wilson's calf is going to give him trouble. It's already been a few weeks now, and calves don't heal all that quickly. But I do know that Fields is looking very much like someone who deserves to have QB1 next to his name, who deserves not to show up at the facility again today and see Russell Wilson's name atop the depth chart, meaning the official depth chart. And that 4-0 maybe should change that. I don't know. He is stubborn. They're stubborn, and there is Tomlin stubborn. When we come back, I'm going to be joined by Chris Halleck to talk about all this some more. At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects. Welcome back. Joined now, as promised, by Chris Halleck, who's on the South Side for the Mike Tomlin press conference, who covers the Steelers for DK Pittsburgh Sports, along with me and Greg McAfee. And Chris, the numbers are there in Justin Fields' favor. The team's record is there in Fields' favor. The part that people can't see or hear, that folks like you and I are privy to, being on the inside, talking to these players, being in that room, getting the vibe from them, is the extent to which they're ready to follow him into battle in Indianapolis and beyond. Are you getting the same vibe from these guys that I am?
Yeah, I think it's pretty overwhelming at this point. I don't think it's necessarily. First off, there's no like Russ versus Justin in the locker room.
It's not like last year.
It's not like anything like that. Everybody if Russ is ever given the opportunity to play, they'll be just as behind Russ as they are behind Justin. But the fact is, Justin's playing right now. Justin's winning games right now, and they're following him as if he's going to be the guy going in, week in, week out. And they are. I remember talking with a couple of different players after the game, and they're just like, he's just cool, calm, collected. Like he just stays even keel. And that is Mike Tomlin talked about that today too at the press conference. And that's a theme that is becoming very, very, it's just very, very recurring when it comes to anybody there talking about him. And that's a great thing to have for a guy who's only been in the league for his fourth year.
His fourth year, but fourth year is not nothing in the National Football League. And the word that keeps coming my way is confident. That when he went out after halftime and took to that huddle, I was told this by Dan Moore and then in a different kind of way by Pat Freiermuth. He goes out there and just says, let's go. Let's go. There could be people wondering, wow, is this offense ever really going to get going? What are we doing here? This is now the third week. You still can't get into the end zone regularly. And they just go boom, 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 boom. Now, it didn't end up being a touchdown drive, but it was 12 plays. It ate up some clock, and they felt that they really wore down the other guys, meaning the Chargers, of course. But when you're in that setting, there's only 11 people in that setting. There's no coaches in there. And the fans are getting behind you, and you can feel that. You're heading to a different level, Chris. And let's put it this way. Try to picture the scenario in which Tomlin says, nah, and just yanks the plug out of the wall and says, go get him, Russ. It's unthinkable.
Yeah, it really is at this point. Again, we talked about this at the beginning of the season when Justin first was going to get the start in place of Russ in Atlanta. That if they win games, that's the ultimate game changer. And they're winning games right now. They're 3-0. The rest of the division is in shambles. The Bengals are 0-3. Why would you change anything at this point?
Heck no. On top of that, we can mention 3-0. We can mention the caliber of the opponent that they beat this past weekend. Mm-hmm. But what you're really talking about here, that changes the complete complexion of this conversation. Mm-hmm. Is 25 of 32 for 245 yards and still taking care of the football. I'm sorry, that interception was fluky stuff. Okay. He's still doing everything that they asked him to, that Arthur Smith, that Tomlin himself, of course, had asked him to do, had challenged him to do back at the beginning in Latrobe, but also 25 of 32 for 245 yards. So I actually, I'm not going to lie here. I'm not referring to you here, but I'm starting to get a little bit cringy when I hear, well, he's won these games. You can't take him out because they're winning games. He was a big reason they won that game.
No, for sure. And it was his best performance of the three without a shadow of a doubt. And the one thing that I really want to your point, really kind of make here is the cool, calm, collected thing. Like, that's not just talking about his demeanor in the locker room, his demeanor in the huddle. It's also his demeanor in the pocket. It's his demeanor play to play inside the play, reading defenses and not, my first read isn't there, so I'm going to go into panic mode and try to. He only had one scramble of the entire game this past Sunday. He didn't panic. He didn't get his eyes down and see the pass rush coming and just be like, oh, well, crap, let me try to do something with my legs. He's doing this without really running the football much. And imagine whenever he gets this that he's doing now and he pairs it with the ability to then kill defenses on the ground.
See, that's the funniest part of all this, though, Chris. If you think about it, he's yet to have one of those games. I know he's had a couple where, he's had a couple of nice runs, but the designed runs that the Steelers had against the Chargers didn't work because Jim Harbaugh wasn't going to let him beat the San Diego. I knew I was going to do that. The Los Angeles defense. The Los Angeles defense on the ground. That's the way coaches enter these games against mobile quarterbacks. They say, well, whatever happens, he's not going to beat us on the ground. Okay, well, great. Guess what he did? He beat you through the air. We haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen him have one of those games. I have a feeling that when Pittsburgh sees that version of Fields, not just on some film from Chicago, you're going to be having a whole different feel about who this player is, because that's actually still his most dangerous suit, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we could talk about the accuracy he's had especially this past week over the middle of the field, and his ability to throw the deep ball. Those have been, like, at least the deep ball for sure. That was already there in Chicago. That goes back to Ohio State. He's always been able to do that. But whenever
it's effortless, Chris.
Yes.
It's effortless, and it's landing where it needs to land with very few exceptions.
Yeah, but whenever he does, I mean, just some people might just forget how special some of his runs were in Chicago. All it's going to take, I think, is just one of those stupid type of runs where he dodges this guy and breaks this tackle. And I think it was against the Eagles a couple of years ago. He had this run where he just rattled off. It looks like he was going to go down 4 or 5 times. He ends up making his way all the way to the end zone and scoring. It's just, that's what Justin's capable of. And whenever he pulls off one of those plays, like, okay, nobody else in the league, maybe other than Lamar Jackson, can do that. And
Lamar can do it.
Lamar can do it.
Lamar can still do it.
But Lamar is also a 2-time MVP. Are you going to take that type of a guy in your team?
I'd be okay with that. The last question I have for you today, Chris, is when I heard Tomlin say that it's not necessary for him to name Fields the quarterback, I took something from that. Did you? I mean, I took that he's. Yeah, look, it's obvious, people. What do you want me to do here? Put it up on the Mount Washington, giant neon board? What do you want me to do?
I really do think that it is just as simple as Mike is not going to try to create or stir up anything. He really is just in a situation which, like, Russ is not healthy. He is not healthy from what I'm being told, from what I could see. And it's not just a point of, could Russell Wilson probably go out and play a football game right now? Yeah, probably. But the ability to do everything that Justin can do right now, moving around, think of all the play action rollouts that they have designed, all the different things that the quarterback has to
Designed for Russ.
Right.
Designed for Russ. Russ has to, people forget he can't see over the line. He has to get out of the pocket.
Yes.
To be able to see his receivers. The calf injury for him, you can't just tell him, hey, Russ, go stand in the pocket.
Yeah. No, it's not a situation like that. So Tomlin really is just looking at this exactly as he's saying it. Russ isn't available to me, so why am I going to sit here and try to I have to make somebody officially the quarterback. Justin's going to be playing anyway. So why do I have to bother giving you an answer whenever Justin's going to be the quarterback playing anyway? Now, and he even said, when Russ gets healthy enough to which we feel like he can play and actually be productive, then we'll have that conversation, and then I'll answer that question.
Guys, when we come back, J1Q.
Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different. Help prevent gun accidents, misuse, and theft. Keep firearms safe and secure when not in use. For safe storage options, visit projectchildsafe.org.
And for our J1Q segment today, we stay right here in the city. Zachary Roosevelt in the Larimer section of Pittsburgh.
Hey, DK, big fan of the show. So we hear often that it's an offensive-driven league and that a franchise quarterback is necessary to have success in the NFL, particularly in the playoffs. So my question for you today is, with the Steelers allowing less than 3 points per game, is it possible that this style of play from the Steelers is sustainable and we can still see success down the road against a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen, particularly if we make it into the playoffs? Thanks.
Whew. I actually want to answer that by not answering it. And I'm going to explain what I mean here, Zachary, because you're ruling out that the Steelers have such a quarterback, and I'm not prepared to do that. See, Justin Fields is 25 years old. Justin Fields just came off going at one of the league's better defenses, and Chargers actually have that. by throwing, was it 25 of 32 for 245 yards. I'm not ready to just put him on the shelf of guys who can't get it done. So that's my first thought when you ask that. My second thought is, let's say that Fields is just some run-of-the-mill guy. Let's say that he's a 16 or a 17 out of 32 starting quarterbacks in the league. All right? I'm purposely being cynical here for this scenario. If that's the case, and the offense that you have, and the one I think you're describing, is one that just grinds it out, wears the other guys down, eats up the clock, steals the momentum, and then the defense comes out and gets the job done. You know what I hear in that? I hear a template to beat Josh Allen, a template to beat Patrick Mahomes, a template to beat really anybody in the NFL in a single game, which is all it takes once you get to the playoffs. So that's the way. That's the negative scenario here for me. The positive one is that you can do those things and have your cake too. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody checking out the new Double Shot. We'll be back with another one of these tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, available on all platforms.